Thank you. I'm going to convince myself you're all here to see me and not win the prize. So JT, I'm product marketing lead for our platforms. And recently I was at NAB, and it occurred to a lot of us there that Synamedia may not be a household name. And so what I figured I'd start with is who Synamedia is and how we got here. And so it's actually a new company from October, but it's got DNA that goes all the way back to the Thrill in Manila in 1975, where the first logo, Scientific Atlanta, carried that fight between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier in one of the first global digital broadcasts. So in the early 2000s, a company called Cisco decided that video was going to take off. And so they went through a series of acquisitions of a bunch of companies in the video space. And that created the Video Software Solutions Group, for which a lot of us came out of, because after about 10 years of working that, Cisco decided to divest of their video assets. Now, they've done two divestitures. The first one was for the in-house CPE that went to a company called Technicolor. And the second divestiture was the platforms and software, security, and video processing. And that company was divested to an investment firm called Permira, which is in London. And they rebranded those assets that came out of Cisco as Synamedia. And so Synamedia, again, it's a new company, but we got 40 years of experience in developing end-to-end, secure, comprehensive video platforms. And so what I'd like to do, and now how I fit into this is I was actually on the Scientific Atlanta side of things. I started in the industry in 2000, and I have been doing product marketing since, on the CPE side, on the software side, on the security side. I even had a stint with the IoT side of things. So what I'd like to do now is talk about how at least I see things in the marketplace and how they're playing out. This isn't meant to be a forensic analysis of what's going on. It's just some of the highlights, but kind of give you an idea of where we're coming from and how that fits into infinite entertainment. So heard a lot of discussion in some of the panels about who's king and who's queen and whatnot, but from my standpoint, content is king and the distribution of that content is queen. And very important, but ultimately we're all trying here to serve consumers, and it's the consumers out there that are making the buying decisions that are really ruling everything. And this whole conference is about how do we get consumers' eyeballs on our content and how do we extract money out of them. Broadband is just only getting bigger and faster, whether it's in the home or in the community. At next week's, I think it's next week, the French Open is kicking off, and France Television is doing a trial of 4K coverage of the French Open over a 5G network. Just more, there's all kinds of this going on, but more evidence that as the broadband's growing, more and more services and more content will be coming out of it. There's fragmentation. Lots of different ways consumers can get content. I'll allude to this a little later in a mini case study. But it used to be everything was bundled, not so much anymore. Consumers and the video is fragmenting. And conversely, which is kind of interesting, there's a lot of consolidation going on, which kind of feeds into the fragmentation. Big data, always a hot topic. To a certain extent, I think the collection of that data is outpacing the ability to extract the actionable insight, but we're getting closer and closer to making that a reality as well. Piracy, I think everybody's aware of what went on with Game of Thrones. My colleague Chris did a great presentation yesterday that kind of went into piracy and how much it's costing and how smart some of these folks are. But it is no longer just about the black box that decodes the analog signal. You got server farms and all kinds of attacks going on, and it's costing real money. And then there's the whole concept of monetization. And kind of this is where I want to kind of transition into a couple of use cases that I think are indicative of what's going on in our market and how it's proving out how these changes are fostering infinite entertainment. So when you have all this innovation and all this disruption, where they meet is where infinite entertainment comes about. And what is infinite entertainment? Well, it's a lot more choice for consumers, for sure. It's the globalization of what's going on. So no longer is any single video provider constrained by a geographic area, right? So if you think back, I'm a man of a certain age, so I remember when franchises were handed out, and so video providers could only operate in a certain franchise. And then it is also where folks like BitBox saw a great presentation with BritBox yesterday, and how they can be a single entity with one idea, one set of content, but they can go global. So you add all that up, and that's what we see in infinite entertainment. So I'm going to compare and contrast a couple of case studies here. Again, I'm not trying to defend a dissertation or anything, so these are pretty high level just to give some directional thought here. So my first trip to New York City was in 1987, and although this isn't the exact ticket, that's what I got to get here. And what that ticket entailed was it got me a seat on the plane. When I got to the airport, there was a place for my bag. When I got to the gate, I was asked whether I wanted to be smoking or non-smoking. That was about the biggest choice I could have. And then the plane was boarded from rear to front. Well, you fast forward to my trip that I took up on Monday, and unfortunately I've lost a lot of status, so some of these things for people who are flying all the time may not realize it's going on, but when I got to the airport, there wasn't a place for my bag. That was an upcharge. I didn't have a seat, or I had a seat, but if I wanted a better seat, that was an upcharge. If I wanted to get on the plane earlier and have a place for my overhead, that was another upcharge. And what the airlines have done, on the surface, I think, is take a very tried and true bundled monetization policy and changed it. And whether consumers are really happy with this or not, I guess we could debate, but at the end of the day, as a consumer of the airline, I'm choosing where I'm spending my money. We contrast that with what's going on in video. This is a TV guide, or a Warner Cable TV guide from 1987 in the Detroit market. And so that would come out every week, and then there really wasn't a whole lot of change. If there was an original show, it came on at the same time on the same day. And if I wanted to watch a particular movie, I showed up at that time in front of my TV. If we think about what's going now, it's already happening where this fragmentation, and as a consumer, I can now divorce myself from paying for that bundle, and I can start stacking what I want based on my choices. Now, I heard earlier someone say that this was cheaper, and I'm beginning to doubt that at the end of the day, we're going to stay in that area. I am looking to cut the cord myself. I never thought that would happen based on my family. But when I started looking into this and seeing all the channels my family watched and trying to get that same channels, my cost isn't all that, I'm not saving all that much. And now I'm kind of worried about, will the family be able to find what they want when they want? But again, now I'll be choosing for what I want. Another example, I think, is where if we take a look at innovation and how that's changing, we can look at the bicycle. Now, I'm not sure when that picture was taken, and I'm not sure how you got off and on that thing, but that was a bike, and it was very utilitarian. It got you from point A to point B. We fast forward a few years, the bike improved. It was easier to get on and off, I would assume. And it became a social event. It became a sport. You did it more than just getting from place to place. Well, today, if you're a serious biker, you can take your bike and attach it to the cloud through several applications. This one happens to be called Zwift. And now I can ride my bike virtually anywhere in the world with a group of people. So the innovation is the bike has evolved, but then the bike connected to the cloud has created a whole new experience for me to ride my bike. I still would prefer to ride it outside with actual people, but if the weather just doesn't work out that way, I can hop in my basement, get on the bike, and have the same, a similar experience. So that's the first TV. And I learned this yesterday. The first television broadcast was in the late 20s, and there was 4 TVs attached to it. I'm not sure what they showed because the screen's smaller than my flip phone screen I had a few years ago. The TV has grown and improved. And now if we think about adding the cloud, the question becomes, what is TV really? Because now everything's virtual. I can watch what I want, where I want, pretty much on any device. So in essence, any screen is now a TV. So the TV's improved. The cloud has improved the experience overall. And so this is the era we're in now. A lot of talk about this over in the conference. So what does this all mean? Well, I think for Synamedia, there's 3 things we look at. First is the platform, right? And the platform is more than just delivering your video. It's about delivering and monetizing and merchandising that video, right? There's going to be new business models. The next session after this is going to talk about how VOD is being monetized. Cloud DVR and DVR storage space is being monetized. But the platform has to be flexible enough and have the business rules in order for you to not only create the new monetization, but also use the screen as the retail mechanism for that monetization. So sorry, it's a little hard to see. I have not seen Endgame yet. And it's starting to look like I'm not going to be able to see it in the theaters. I want to see it with my daughter. She's been really busy. We haven't been able to find the time. If the producers of Endgame gave me an opportunity to watch that now on a VOD system, I'd probably pay more just to be able to watch it. And that's an example of a new monetization that's being tested. Now, the blockbusters may not get there anytime soon, but there are movies that you can watch on your VOD system for an upcharge while they're still in theaters. So how much money would a producer really leave on the table putting it out on VOD the same day it went into the movie theaters? Don't know exactly. But I do know I'm likely not going to see Endgame in a theater. I'm going to have to wait for a longer time. So that may or may have not been an opportunity loss. The experience is more than just pixels, right? So I alluded to the France Telecom being in 8K over a 5G network. Not sure how the 8K aspect of that is going to be improved on my Apple iPhone. But what's really important, and this was alluded to in a session great session by CBS Digital Sports when they streamed the Super Bowl, is it's about quality. It's about an uninterrupted experience that can scale and can be delivered on time. They chose not to go 4K for the Super Bowl because they were afraid that that was going to sacrifice the quality of the stream and the buffering and the latency and whatnot. And so it isn't always about just the pixels and what's on the screen. There's a lot going on in the background with the video processing that has to be nailed in order to deliver that overall experience. And then security is a lot of, not just about defending, right? If you're just simply going to try and defend anything, you're going to be playing a whole lot of whack-a-mole, if you will. It's really about how do you take security and take it from defense to offense. So we all know Game of Thrones had 3 or 4 times as many pirates as they did actual subscribers. So how can HBO look at that situation and turn a portion of those pirates into paying subscribers? If you do the math, there was over 50 million pirated streams for Game of Thrones throughout the globe. There was about 5 million in the US, 1 million in Australia, Eastern Europe and other areas, there was a lot more. If you just take half of that and you can get $4.95 out of those pirates for that one stream, you're talking $125 million that's been left on the table. So how can HBO and others take the pirating and turning it into offense? We saw this with the music industry. There MO was to stick their head in the ground and try and sue every college student, and that didn't work. Eventually, Apple came along and provided a reasonable mechanism to buy a song for what people thought a song was worth, and a lot of those pirates became honest buyers of music. So thinking about security in that aspect is about turning those folks that are pirating into paying subscribers. So this all adds up to, I think, why everybody's in business, and that is to generate revenue from subscribers. And I just wanted to use this stat because I find it very compelling. This is a US-only stat, but I believe it probably rings true throughout the globe. But the percent of household spend on entertainment hasn't changed much since 1984. In 1984, the average household income was $29,000, and the average spend on entertainment was 4.8% of that. If you fast forward to today, according to the Bureau of Statistics, the labor and statistics, the average salary is roughly $60K, and people are spending 5.3% of that on entertainment. And so there has not been more than 1% up or down change in what people are spending on entertainment. And entertainment is defined, if I live in New York, it's the Bronx Zoo, it's a New York Rangers game, it's going to a movie, it's going to a Yankee game. And with only a 5% household spend, we're all going after the same size pie, and it's about how can I differentiate and increase in order to get a bigger slice of that pie. Because it doesn't appear like we as consumers are just going to start spending 7, 8, 9, 10% of our income on entertainment. It's going to stay roughly between 4.8 and 5.8%. And so what do you need? You need a content that's going to be personalized, it's going to be very simple, it's going to be smart, and above all, it needs to have value. And I think having the right content, for example, like BritBox, they know their market, they know its niche, that's the only folks they're going after, and they have a lot of value, thus they can extract the price they're looking for. But the system that's riding on needs to be comprehensive, it needs to be secure, it needs to be end-to-end, and it's about expanding the personalized multi-screen experience. It's great to have a bunch of screens, and it's great to have a bunch of content, but in 1992, Bruce Springsteen wrote a song that was called 57 Channels and Nothing On. And it's almost laughable to think about it now that a cable system with 57 channels and people couldn't find anything to watch. Basically now, it's almost unlimited number of channels, and it's about making sure people find that. And then Synamedia has global scale, but we have the ability to handle local market solutions, right? So we are in every market. Not every market's the same. Netflix is finding that out as they move from the US into other markets. So that's all I have. If there are any questions, I'm happy to field any. Otherwise, someone is going to win this.
Oh, I'm sure we got some questions. Yes, one right up front. Hold on, I'll get you the microphone.
In your economics of home entertainment, I mean, people are using smartphones doing that right now. Are you also incorporating, let's say, the cost of using telecommunications as part of the home entertainment business?
So it's a good question. The Bureau of Statistics broke out in 2007 broadband from entertainment. And so we tried to normalize for that. Broadband is considered a utility, not entertainment. But yes, the point's taken. I mean, broadband is facilitating all of these content choices. But, you know, if I ask my wife, you know, we have 5% of our money to spend on entertainment, she's not going to think that's part of broadband.
Okay, round of applause for JT. Round of applause for JT. That's all we have time for. Did a great job.